Hello, and welcome to the Barbie Sorority Chat with Diana, Barbie, and Mike. Diana is my alter ego in Barbie. Barbie is the lady of the Barbie Sorority House. Mike is named after a friend of mine who I worked during the Gulf War and was finally able to come out. And that though Mike is a fictional name, not his real name, to protect his identity. Um, in today's chat, we're gonna have the Barbies are gonna have a chat. Diane's gonna explain why she took basically 2 years away from doing any tech work, and also Mike's gonna mention about why basically he likes the Barbie house and that anyone can wear anything they want. So Barbie, take it away. Well, I'd like to welcome all of you to watching this video and to being with my friends Diana and Mike. Both of them have a lot to say, and also, well, let's start with Diana first. Diana, um, why did you take 2 years away from tech? No coding, no Arduino, or anything. Well, Barbie, the reason why I took 2 years away from tech is because basically at one point I was wondering if I was still falling back into being a cog or being a quant as I was being taught in college and even when I was in pre-med. I didn't realize it at the time, but something made me change in that though. It actually was an adverse thing, a harsh thing that made me change because I thought because every time my apartment inspected, we had people inspecting the apartment. They said, well, they're not responsible for lost and stolen items. I had multiple computer systems, multiple things. I always had a lockup every time they came in and then unlock and reset up. And eventually I got tired of it. So I thought, well, okay, well, I'm just going to keep a limited number of computers out, but basically the others I'm going to keep on the locking key, which I do today. So what I did is I substituted, instead of doing tech, I did craft. I went into crafting the Dow Collection Center, the Barbie Sorority, and having us make stuff for the Barbie house. So your response was basically due to being teased and abused by cowboys and tough kids from Seed, and basically until you could figure out what to do, you took the crafting path. Yes, and also another reason why I took the crafting path because this is the time that basically one prominent AI researcher made a comment that basically people should all become plumbers, and I thought, well, I know what it's like when people are replaced by jobs because I was raised in Kenosha when the auto industry was disassembled in Kenosha and moved to Mexico. And many years ago, people from Kenosha saw a lot of the machinery used at the lakefront plant and the West Side plant in Mexico and disassembled. So I thought, well, this is a perfect time to help others who are being replaced by AI and also by uninformed people using AI to try to replace people. So you also did this as a social good to help. Oh, Mike? You want to jump in? Yes. Well, I've worked with Diana for many years, and we first worked together during the Gulf War, during the first Gulf War in Milwaukee. Um, what happened at one point, basically, it was a very strange time because basically you have to remember there are many things that occurred before basically the 90s and the change. Yes, so you mean you're referring to you're referring to Days of Breaking the Code, the masterpiece film that starred Daryl Jacoby, or the life of Alan Turing, and also the life of Alan Turing, how he was treated when he was discovered as gay in England and prosecuted due to the laws that existed then. Even in Milwaukee, that didn't change until 1999, and that's why even when Diana left the park, everyone cheered her because basically we left with her a month later, and that. Yes, and I was glad I was able to switch over to a position on the West Coast, where I worked on the West Coast from 1992 to 1999. Albeit though I still had to work half time, but basically the people I worked with were very open minded, And eventually I was able to transition fully in about 2000. And where I was working, they supported me when I did that. So it really took you until 2000. But when were you first diagnosed? Well, I was diagnosed at age 7, and what happened in Milwaukee, it was decided that I shouldn't transition because of the toxic male culture that existed then in Milwaukee. Even though I went to an enlightened school in Wauwatosa, where basically the teachers and the principals agreed that basically boys and girls could wear almost anything they wanted, except boys couldn't wear dresses or tights because we were part of Milwaukee School District then, and we were concerned about what would happen. But still, many of our parents had to fight for our rights by going to federal court in Chicago. Well, why didn't you go to a Milwaukee court? Well, because Milwaukee court basically has felt that basically that the judges were too sympathetic to toxic male culture when represented our rights. So we went to federal court. So that costed your parents a lot of money to go to federal court because you have to have special attorney and everything else. Yes, and we worked together. And we did that many times, and eventually that's why part of the reason why I was raised in Kenosha, decided to be raised in Kenosha, not only seen, even though my dad was an executive at Walker, and they offered to put us to find a home for us at Wind Point because Racine still had the toxic male culture being so close to Milwaukee. So Kenosha, my parents saw it didn't because my dad went to orthopedic school, which is by Jefferson School in Jefferson School District, and they were very supportive in the 30s when my dad had polio, and my dad thought the same thing existed at the Jefferson School when I went there, and that though. So you went to the same school as your parents went to, but the school even back then was supportive, where in Milwaukee it wasn't. Yes. Well, also I'd like to mention something. I was raised completely in Milwaukee, and I was raised in what was considered a good neighborhood, but I still had to live with the toxic male thing too because like Diana, many of us went to Mayfair Mall to skate, and when we go skating, we saw all the beautiful costumes and skiing costumes, and we wish we could wear it. And basically, and we had some people say, "Well, we'll protect you if you do," but basically back then we couldn't. So what happens, as you can see today, though, I'm wearing an outfit that I like and having my hair done the way I want, and not a short crew cut like what was common to the toxic male culture of this area. Hair extensions. Diane and Barbie um, helped me, Bruce and Stanley with the hair extensions and also with the styling. Well, thank you. And also, what else? Something else I'd like to say though too is at the Barbie house we have an open policy. Everyone can exist as they wish to exist. There's no discrimination, but you're not allowed to attack other people because of their identity and how they live. Also, you're allowed to wear what you wish. So everyone at the Barbie house wears what they wish. And recently, we had new outfits coming in, as Diana was able to find outfits. So ballet dress outfits. And what happens? Diana's not wearing a ballet dress outfit because she gave her outfit so that another member of the Sawyer house could express herself. She's going to order more outfits, and also we're going to order 14 formal gowns for the winter cotillion coming up. Diana, yes. Well, the thing about the Barbie houses for this last 2 years has been a labor of love, and that though, and basically what happens though is the main thing is what happens. It's been an idea about sustainable housing. How can you make sustainable housing out of common materials with high tensile strength? And and Diana has the Barbie house has let's see, 23 24 has 25 rooms. And what happens, it's all sustained on foam board. And also we have our aerobics room as well. the thing is, what happens. The other thing what we like though is also we like watching Jessica Kelgarn Fazadi, basically, who also talks about different LGBT issues, and she had an episode about why people shouldn't panic if boys wear dresses, and also about purple. That purple is not necessarily is considered very legal, but the reason why purple was banned because basically there were scares throughout history where basically it was considered a challenge to toxic male society and toxic society. And she also mentioned the thing which I didn't become aware about. We didn't become aware about today that President Clinton did sign a law granting a security clearance for those who were LGBT in 1995, but it took until 1998 for people who wanted to work in government service for them to work if they were LGBTQ. And also about the Eisenhower sweeps. I saw that we saw that in a Hulu or Prime Video thing. Well, guys, why don't you join in? Yes, I was really surprised because I talked with a friend of mine who's former military. He is enlisted. He's a retired officer from the Navy, and he told me, he says, yeah, he says there were a lot of changes in the '90s, and for me though, I sometimes I wondered why was '95 such a pivotal year for me, and I can see part of the reason why is because when I left the park, what happened was even when I was at the park, I remember working with people, and sometimes the way they talk about Pie Fest, they said, "Did you hear about that celebration they had? Do you go to that type of celebration?" And see what happened was because it was the Gulf War, and also due to toxic male culture in Milwaukee, you weren't supposed to do that. And even years ago, when I went to one event up in Milwaukee, there's one person I met, and she had transitioned. However, though, when she came to event strictly right after work, but from work they made her dress as a man, even though she transitions when she had to have a man's haircut, she had men's clothes on. And at first, I was a little bit shocked and didn't know what to think. And then I thought about, oh yeah, she's still working under the old Milwaukee system. Really? That yeah, 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 really, really like that though, really. And so you mean they're still trying to do to other people what they did to us during the '80s and '90s? Yes. So you guys really had a well, I mean, use an unformal term, but you guys really had to be tough to live through that because it is easier to give in than it was. And yes, yes, it was like that though. And for me too, and even for my fiance who became my wife, we offered with when we left the park, we offered with Diana to come with us to the West Coast, and at the time Diana was still taking care of her parents, so she didn't know quite what to do, but basically we sort of settled on the West Coast to start a new life, and I'm glad Diana talked with me about one thing, so that I could finally so I and my wife could live a good life, and good culture. We eventually returned to Milwaukee in '99, like that when Milwaukee changed. However, though, like Diana, we still stay far away from Milwaukee. We don't stay in the city limits, and we stay away from even Wauwatosa because Wauwatosa is not the same Wauwatosa that Diana was raised in. Exactly. I live in Racine, and that's the closest I ever want to be to Milwaukee. Even when I think of going to Milwaukee, what happens if I were to drive? I drive up to I maybe drive up to Brookfield, but I wouldn't drive to Mayfair because I had friends that told me that worked at Mayfair that even they warned me. They said, "Well, they're not as accepting of you now as they used to be in the past," and so they warned me stay away like that though. And the last time I was in Mayfair, I was with a group of friends, so I guess I was protected because I was with the group. But they said, "Don't go up there alone. Go up with an escort." So, so, um, so one thing you guys may be wondering, I'm wearing my bunny slippers, and the reason I'm wearing my bunny slippers today is basically Diana and Mike are very creative, and what happened was both of them remember the film Real Genius, and Real Genius, the protagonist wore bunny slippers as well as mentor professor. The interesting thing, though, is basically Diana and Mike never saw the movie, when it came out, but the people who took advantage of them did and tried to take advantage of them by switching the movie around. Yes, when I finally did see Real Genius, which came out in 1986, but I didn't see it until 2001, I realized all the references that I was going through with some people who I worked with, and that why they're so. And I thought, oh my God! I said, and they actually used the same type of machine that I worked with, which is a Faxstar Plus and the laser system like that. Though, and I knew this person who set up the laser system. Yeah, and with Diana though, they always would question her whether she was straight. They always would say, "Well, who did you date? Did you date this person?" And even people who were basically LGBT who were working under cloaked, basically we had to have a special area to meet on campus so that we could talk and everything else. That's true because there are many of us. There are many of us that had to maintain a certain as a strict dichotomy. If you're a woman, you dated men. If you're a man, you dated women. And what happened was, even some of the researchers I worked with, some of them were very mean because with eight people had AIDS, they said, "Well, it's God's revenge for their immoral lifestyle." Exactly, and Diana almost walked out the door many times because of that. Because although basically Diana is lesbian, basically she does follow very safe habits, and she's never had sex. She actually is celibate in regard to that matter. But the thing is, what happens though? So you guys basically had to walk a tight line, even though even I. But I thought Wisconsin had protection for LGBT. No, really, what happens? Wisconsin passed that protection for LGBT in 1980, but it only protects gay men and lesbian women. So basically, if you were born a man and you have a gay partner, you're protected. If you're born a woman and you have a gay partner, a woman partner, you're protected. But if you're bi, transgender, or questioning, you're not protected. However, in Illinois, you are protected fully, and also you're guaranteed employment, whereas Wisconsin, you're not guaranteed employment. That's true. And even in the service, basically, there are many people in the service at that time who were LGBT. And also, what happened was they had to watch it because basically, even with the advent of Don't Ask, Don't Tell that passed in 1995, people were still outed, and some people were actually discharged because of being outed. And well, how could they be outed if it was Don't Ask, Don't Tell? I mean, I thought that protected everybody. Well, not really. Mike, did you want to go into it and explain in detail? Yes. Well, let me put it this way. Let's say you're in a unit, and let's say basically you're in a unit and you're the new guy, and basically, well, you're in the unit, and some people say, well, you don't like certain types of sports or something. You like to watch arts or something, or that's an easy one. But basically, but let's say you're a new guy, and you try to mix in. You watch some of the stupid football, stupid violent games, and you try. But then eventually, people say, "Well, that guy's a little different. He doesn't act quite right." And then what happens? Another person talks, and then they all talk and they start to spy on the person. And then at one point they all go to the command and say, "Well, we think this guy is gay," and stuff like that. Then basically this guy gets investigated and he gets outed. Exactly. So what happens? Don't ask, don't tell didn't prevent other people from talking about other people. It prevented people from having to tell what a person one to one, but didn't prevent other people from gossiping and using indirect gossip, innuendo, and what's the term I'm looking for? Hearsay to cause them to be outed from the military. So you guys have been through a lot. So and and Diana, let me just have. Could you just restate why you took a 2 year break from tech? Yes, I took a 2 year break from tech as in a protest because basically I don't like how AI is being implemented in terms of firing people. Some people may feel maybe suspect that the firing is indiscriminate use of AI. And also what I don't like is I don't like how what tech has become because Um, Literally, I started in the 70s. No, I actually started in the 60s, 69. My dad just taught me on a computer on a GE 635 mainframe computer where we had a teletype ASR 33 at home with a paper tape and a phone line. So really, you guys had all that modern access way before anyone became aware of internet in the 90s. Yes, and I was taught BASIC and Fortran. However, at that time it was a professional field. But later, what happened was they changed the term from IT professional to IT worker. And when they changed IT worker, that allowed the lowering the standards, and that's why some people suspect why we have to have more security today. But also, my dad felt that the reason why we had to have more securities even starting in the 80s was because many big tech companies who promised not to do what the bad boys did during the 50s and 60s, when they became big enough and wealthy enough, they did exactly the same thing. So a lot of the security issues and other things are people who were fired from big tech, not given the pensions, not given a way to transition to another career or other careers. So it's a form of revenge. So, so what happened was they sort of were trying to do something with well, I don't know if you could call it gray hat, but they're trying to address the social abuse that was happening in the tech industry. Exactly. And also Diana, if I may, yes, I think I know what you're going to say. Go ahead. Well, when Diana worked at the park, she managed the lab. She managed what's called the FACS Core Lab. And at that time, FACS Core Lab was funded as a $3 million lab, which is basically $30 million in today in money. $3 million in money, $3 million lab in 1989, 30 million in 2026. Yet Diana was the lowest paid person there. What happened was everyone else who was working as a technician that used the lab was paid 36,000 or 5 weeks vacation per year. Diana was paid barely 19,000 with only 2 weeks vacation per year, and she was also teased every morning. Said, "Well, why do you live in Illinois and commute up to Milwaukee?" And she had to say many times, "Kenosha's not part of Illinois. Kenosha's part of Wisconsin," and they deliberately were dense, or they were dense in that though. Yes, and also it was very hard on me because what happened was the other thing is I wouldn't get the mileage reimbursement because they wouldn't sign the forms. So what happens? I had to pay for putting a new set of tires on my car, high maintenance, because each year I had about 50,000 miles on my car just driving up and back to the park, and then back to downtown, and possibly towards UW Waukesha to help on projects as well. While everyone else lived nearby. Yes, a lot of people lived only 5 miles from the park, and so when Diane would get there, sometimes she'd have to sit down for a while because traffic in those days was very horrendous, and it was the Wild West if you took the interstate. So she took Highway 100 up, which is easier, but still, when you got to National Avenue in Cleveland, it was a zoo. It was very much, and Diana showed it. Yes, and many people didn't have any understanding. And then when we worked downtown, some days I could take the coach trains bus and have a little break from the commuting, and also sometimes sleep on the bus there and on the way back because sometimes the teasing and the taunting would get so bad. So really, you're supposed to be part of the team, but yeah, and also what happened was I was in charge. I was in third in charge because I was responsible. Because if the Fax Core Lab failed, 65 people would have lost their jobs and they would have lost their careers, and I was responsible for saving the lab and their careers. So really, they were that dumb and they were that ungrateful. Yes, they were. They were. And what happened at one point, they finally didn't have empathy until one person's husband started to work at a major medical company in northern Illinois. Then what happened was, oh, Barbie, you want to say it? Yeah. Then what happened was she came up and she says, I know, now I understand how you feel because when my husband comes back from work, he's just as tired and sometimes just as grumpy as you are having to deal with Chicago traffic, even though it's in Wisconsin. And yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, and I just accepted. But it's like Sabrina Carp would say, "Thank you, but a little bit late. Actually, way late." In that though, yes. And what happened was they tried to cover the tracks. So so basically, you guys sort of had to form your own club to protect yourself and work there. Yes, along with many others, and that the place where we used to meet still exists at the campus. We won't say it here though, because basically they're for other people who are LGBTQ to have a free and safe space to meet on campus like that though. Well, I'm glad. We're living in a better society, and we can all live together in Barbie House in peace, and also other societies in peace. And that though, but also that you could share, because I know it's very hurtful to all of you, to both of you, in that though. And guys, I'd like you to comment. What do you think of our outfits? Barbie is Diana's wearing the dress that she wore for the doll show, and that though basically for Valentine's Day theme. I'm wearing the lavender ballerina gown with full tutu, and also my bunny slippers as basically just as a little bit of a fashion style thing. And Mike is wearing his ballerina gown with basic with hair extensions. I just want to mention one thing to everyone though. Mike, may I? Oh yes, Barbie, go ahead. Diana has done a lot of great things to help me. Go ahead. Well, Diana has been trying to use part of her medical research training to help Mike in that though, because at one point in during the Gulf War, Mike lost one of his arms, and also his hands basically sort of became sort of dish shaped. So Barbie, with the help of Annette, has been trying to help Mike get his arms back. He also putting in natural hands, and 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 also what happens at the Barbie sorority, we're working to try to find ways so that Mike can have articulated fingers as well as arms, so that basically he has more movement of his arms like that though, without having to have it held on as a prosthesis. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. Also, I appreciate that that basically we all get together, and also that you don't refer to me as some people do, as being disabled or basically treated. And also you don't say we respect we what was it we like your service. I'm glad you guys say we respect your service, because the other way is a cop out. And even Diana's friend feels the same way as many other veterans Diana knows, when they say it the other way. It's better to say we respect your service. So in closing, remember, when you see people who are veterans, if you're gonna say something that's politically correct to veterans that they tell you to say, please say it when you mean it, because when you say it and you don't mean it, it actually hurts veterans even more. The better thing to say that many veterans prefer is we respect your service. And that though, because what happens, that's not a political campaign, that's not an ad campaign, that's something that comes from the heart. So we like to thank you all for listening and stopping by with the Barbie Sorority Chat, and we'll have more soon. And also we'll show you more from the Winter Cotillion that's coming up sometime in March. And thanks again for watching.